Hello everyone and welcome back to the good stuff. We are back at the Capablanca Saga, well, at the conclusion of the Capablanca Saga, yes, I have found my book. Here it is. There you have it, the book we've been using to cover this saga by Edward Winter. Really an awesome book, and suffice it to say, it was not, at a place where one would keep books. But since I already ordered the second one, it's a new copy. Really, it's really an amazing book. I will do a giveaway once it arrives, so I'll keep you posted on that. But we're gonna have like you comment in a video, and then you can win this book. It's really just an awesome book. So I don't need two. I will give away one of them. So that being said, we've really done a lot of Capablanca videos. This is the 85th video in the Capablanca Saga, the conclusion video, and we've covered a lot of topics, from Capablanca's youth to his match against national Cuban champion Juan Corzo, then his match against Frank James Marshall, really an epic match where Capablanca just obliterated Marshall. Then Marshall helped him get in his first big international tournament of San Sebastian in 1911. Capablanca was victorious there as well. Then he had his even bigger tournament in St. Petersburg, where he almost won, but Emanuel Lasker went into beast mode, and in the end Capablanca finished second. Then we covered some of the exhibition games. He had some of simultaneous games. We had his famous game against composer Sergei Prokofiev. Then we had the 1916 Rice tournament in New York, then the 1980 New York tournament, then the match against Bora Kostic, his 5-game match, which I really enjoyed. As you know, it really sounds strange when someone says, yeah, he just totally obliterated him 5-0, but if you actually look at the games, there was much more to that. And then we finished it off with showing all the games from the 1921 World Chess Championship match, Capablanca versus Lasker. So that's pretty much it. Capablanca is world champion, and now there is this thing that Capablanca really hated. Of course, Lasker published the book on the championship, and this World Chess Championship match, everyone was looking forward to it, but it didn't really get any media coverage. Well, it did a little bit, but not much, because Lasker specifically stated that he and Capablanca owned the copyrights to the games played in the World Chess Championship match, so no one could show the games. Magazines, they said yes, the game was played, it was very nice, but I don't think if they were even allowed to say it was very nice. They just said the game was played. But when Lasker finally published his book, he said he presented everything about the match in that book, the situation before the match, the situation after the match, the negotiations. But Capablanca really disliked that. Lasker pretty much lied in his book, and on multiple occasions. He missed out some of the very important parts of the negotiations, which, if you were following the saga from the beginning, you know them. A lot of things, like Lasker was offended that Capablanca objected to one of his terms during the first part of the negotiations, and Lasker said that he will not play a World Chess Championship match against anyone who offends him. And then Lasker appointed a special arbiter just to like check out did Capablanca in fact insult Dr. Lasker, and then when the arbiter that Lasker appointed said no, everything is fine, then Lasker said that he still doesn't agree with him, and that he will not play a World Chess Championship match against someone who is insulting like Capablanca. So those were only the little parts. But then in the book, Lasker also states that, as you can see the quote above the board, if Dr. Lasker wants an excuse for his defeat, he should look for it where the facts are not against him. So he complained about a lot of things during the match, like the heat and the sun. There is one section in the book that I would very gladly read to you. So here it is. It's one of the things that Capablanca also mentions. So Capablanca says, again in his letter of 18th April, page 24, he, as Dr. Lasker, complains of the sun, and this time of the heat also. He claims that for the afternoon temperature was 32 degrees Celsius in the shade. And Capablanca says that that's a wonderful imagination, but such temperatures do not exist in Cuba, except in midsummer in August, the hottest month of the year. And also Lasker claims that it was 29 degrees Celsius at night with fresh north wind. Capablanca states that this is again absurd. When the north wind blows in Cuba at this time of the year at night, the temperature cannot be more than 20 degrees Celsius, and the probabilities are that the temperatures would be below 20 degrees Celsius. And in such cases, one feels chilly. Capablanca says, I remember that on 2 occasions we had to close the window because the air was too cool, yet he claims it was too hot. It might be well to state right here that far from being used to the hot weather, as most people think, I cannot stand it. So Capablanca himself hates the Cuban weather. He says that I have spent most of my life in very cold climates, and while I enjoy cold weather, hot weather makes me ill. The truth is that that we played under the most ideal conditions imaginable. We played at the casino, which is situated next to the country club and about 3/4 of a mile from the beach. We had a separate room with the windows in 3 sides and the gardens at the back, where we often walked while the other was thinking. A waiter was put solely for our use, so they could, just ask for the waiter to bring them anything, and as Capablanca says, it was free of charge. We could have anything quickly and free of charge. We played only at night 1 session of 4 hours, from 9 to 1. The weather was excellent, not for a man of the tropics only, but for a European as well. So here, Capablanca says that he doesn't agree with a lot of things Lasker said in the book, and that he recommends his own book about the match. I haven't found these 2 books, the one that Lasker published and the one that Capablanca published. Capablanca didn't write it. It was his version, but he was not the writer. I still have problems locating those books online, if they even exist anymore. But okay, Lasker also complained about the weight loss, that he couldn't eat properly, and that he also fell sick. And Capablanca says that he also lost some more than 10 pounds during the match, and that he also didn't eat very well because he was stressed out. The nerves and everything. You can't just have a proper meal all the time. But all in all, Lasker then complained that Capablanca didn't treat him properly after he became world champion, that at the party, for example, after the World Chess Championship match, they just didn't behave like they should. And also that Capablanca said that he didn't believe him, that Lasker fell ill. In one such occasion, Capablanca says that he's not like a doctor or someone with medical expertise, but that 3 days after the match, that Lasker sailed for Europe and that he was looking very well and very healthy. So it's a clash of opinions. A lot of things were happening back then. It's hard to pinpoint what was exactly going on, but the part about negotiations that Lasker left out in his book are very clear, and they are available to the public even today, in very high detail. So that's pretty much it for that regard. So Capablanca really hated Lasker's version of the book, and if I manage to find these 2 versions of the book, I will try to acquire them and go through them, as I'm very interested in this myself. So also one of the things Capablanca said that he will try to change when he becomes world champion. Now that he is world champion, that he will try to make the World Chess Championship games and all of the games from big matches finish in 1 sitting. So not like we'll play 4 hours now, then we're going to have 3 hours of rest, then we're going to play 2 hours in the evening. Then if the game lasts too long, we're going to have an adjournment. Maybe we'll finish it tomorrow or maybe next Saturday. He says that that's a very bad format for the public. The public, for the working class, for example, they have free time now. They can't watch the game now, have a rest for 3 hours, come back, watch it evening. I mean, some people can, but most people can't. And Capablanca says that that's a very poor format for holding a World Chess Championship match. So okay, you cannot avoid adjournment. I mean, you could, like we do it today, but today we have engines, so we cannot adjourn games. But in those days, it was normal to adjourn games. It was only one of the things that Capablanca said that he will try to change and make better for not only the chess players, but for the game of chess itself and for the chess public. That's also one of the things I wanted to mention. And also Capablanca was publicly, not criticized, but Joseph Henry Blackburn, the Black Death, who was 80 years old at the time, said that it's a shame that the games in that match looked the way they were. As Joseph Henry Blackbird called it, it was a superior wood shifting, and meaning that Capablanca adopted Lasker's style, and that the games were very boring, and that he did not enjoy that World Chess Championship match, which is to be expected. Joseph Henry Blackburn was 80 years old at the time, and when he was young and when he was, destroying people like Steinitz in great style, Capablanca says that it's simply not possible to play like that in this match, and that Capablanca's match in his score in his match against Lasker speaks for itself. He could play fancy, shiny combinations in several of the games he had against Lasker, but those combinations allow for mistakes, and with it you give Lasker chances. And then Capablanca says that okay, I could have played fancy and I could have sacrificed pieces, went for some fierce attacks, but then I might have lost the match, and no one would said, yeah, Capablanca's better, he just lost the match because he played fancy moves. They would say, yeah, Lasker is the superior player, as they did every time Lasker won a match. And up until this point, everyone the general opinion was that Lasker was unbeatable in match format, in tournament format as well, but simply here. And he said that, Joseph Henry Blackburn is also one of the players who has a negative score against Emanuel Lasker amongst pretty much everyone else except Capablanca now, and that he really doesn't feel it necessary that Capablanca has to explain himself, that the older masters, the Black Death himself, does not really understand the mastery of younger players today, much like someone from the era of Bobby Fischer and Mikhail Tal wouldn't really enjoy a game, watching a game, I don't know, played between Carlsen and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, some 50 move draw that was brilliantly played like an engine. I mean, maybe they would, who knows, but it's pretty much like that. Like Joseph Henry Blackburn watching a game between Lasker and Capablanca, he's like, they're just showing off their fancy defensive strategy. No one is trying anything, but Capablanca knows that he had to adopt this style, and that once he got a positive result in Game 5, that he was going to stick with it, as he wants to win the match here. And it's not only about winning the match, because if you remember, Lasker said that he resigns the title and that Capablanca is now the champion, but Capablanca refused. He had to travel to Europe twice to convince Dr. Lasker to play the match, because he did not want to take the title away from Lasker without a fight. Something that happened to Anatoly Karpov when Bobby Fischer declined to fight in the World Chess Championship match, and Karpov had to spend the rest of his life practically, proving to the public that he is, a worthy successor to the title. So Capablanca did not want that. He wanted a fair fight, and he won a fair fight. So that's also something I wanted to mention here. And that's pretty much it. Capablanca is now world champion. We're not going to be continuing the saga. We could continue all of the years up until the match with Alexander Alekhine, then his later years, his 3 visits to Russia, where he had impressive results, and there are a lot more tournaments Capablanca played that we could show, but I decided that we're gonna shorten the sagas up until the moment where someone becomes a world champion. So with this we ended the Capablanca saga. And if you're wondering why there's a Richard Reti here along with Jose Raul Capablanca, I decided to show a small miniature here to end this video. So I do hope you will enjoy that as well. So it's just a game one, a very nice miniature played by Capablanca, or maybe Reti. We don't know who won this game. So let's just show it without much analysis, as there isn't all that much to analyze, but we're gonna show it nevertheless. So e4 by Reti. We have e5 by Capablanca, knight to f3, we have knight to c6, and bishop to b5. The Ruy Lopez is on the board, and now d6. The old Steinitz defense, we have c3 by Reti, and now a6, pushing the bishop back. Bishop to a4, and now f5 by Capablanca, wanting to push the f-pawn before developing his knight. We have d4 by Reti, and now comes f captures on e4. And now knight to g5. So a very aggressive opening by white, and this is something Capablanca usually thrives at. He says, okay, throw everything you have against me. I'm just gonna break it down and show you how the position really is simple. With e captures on d4 by Capablanca, knight captures on e4 now, grabbing back the pawn, and now knight to f6, offering a trade of knights. Reti develops a bishop, pinning Capablanca's knight, now threatening to capture, and bishop to e7, Capablanca defends. And now we have queen captures on d4 as the knight is pinned, which is a really bold move as Capablanca has b5. What do you do then? Capablanca went b5. He says, okay, I'm also interested what you have here. And now knight captures on f6 with check. G captures on f6. Now both of Reti's bishops are under attack, the a4 bishop and the g5 bishop, and he goes queen to d5, now threatening to win the knight with check and threaten the rook here. So what do you play here as Capablanca? Capablanca decided he's going to capture the a4 bishop with b captures on a4. And now you can't just go for the knight. If you capture with check, bishop attacks, the rook is guarded by the queen. The queen has to move, and next move you're just gonna, whatever the queen plays, you're just gonna capture this guy here, and you're up a piece, and the white doesn't have a good compensation. So instead, Reti went for bishop to h6, just keeping Capablanca's king in the center. And now if Reti can bring his develop the knight and bring the rooks into the game, should be very good for him. But Capablanca goes queen to d7 now, defending his knight. So now Capablanca is up a piece. And Reti castles. So the king is in the center of the board, bishop holds a very nice diagonal, rook is coming to e1. What can Capablanca do here? Capablanca plays bishop to b7, preparing some discoveries, although there aren't all that many nasty discoveries at the moment. And now bishop to g7, forcing the rook to move, and the rook doesn't really have a good square, since g8 is covered by the queen, and f8 and h8 are covered by the bishop. But it's not a problem. Capablanca just castles queenside. He gives up a rook. He says, okay, I'm up material, you can have that rook. We have bishop captures on h8 by Reti, and now knight to e5, opening up a discovery and also unleashing this bishop's potential on this huge diagonal. We have queen back to d1 by Reti, and now feel free to pause the video here and try to find the winning move for Capablanca in this position while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding such a beautiful unforcing move. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, if you found rook to g8, that's perfectly fine. If you found knight to f3, that's perfectly fine. But if you found the move Capablanca played, then you get extra points for a good measure, you know. Bishop to f3, and it's I just enjoy an unforcing move more than a forcing. Why not f3 check? Okay, it forces matters, but this is just you say to white there's nothing you can do here, and it was in fact in this position that Richard Reti resigned the game, and a wonderful victory for Capablanca. Yeah, the game is from 1927, forgot to mention that, because now whatever you do, you could move the queen, let's say queen to d2, now you just get queen to g4, and there's no stopping mate. You can play g3, queen h3, again, there's no stopping queen g2 mate. So what you can do after bishop checks, you can play pawn captures, and now of course you see the continuation for Capablanca. If you found rook g8 check, that doesn't work. That's at most a draw for black, because after king h1 and queen to h3 threatening mate, you're just gonna play rook to g1, now threatening to capture the rook. And now after a trade here, captures, you don't have time to go for the attack. If knight captures on f3, just queen g2, everything is fine. And if queen captures on f3, you're gonna block, and here black will have to settle for a perpetual, as there is nothing better. So what you had to find here after this bishop to f3 move, g captures and queen to h3 right away. Now white doesn't have time for king to h1, and there is no defense against rook to g8 mate. Well, once you give up some material, it will be mate, and if you play king h1, now knight captures on f3 is deadly, because the only way to prevent mate, well, you can't really prevent it, you can postpone it by playing queen captures on f3, but that's just pointless. The queen just captures on f1, and that's again mate. So you could do that, but it would be pointless. So yeah, after bishop to f3, Reti resigned the game, and the wonderful, yet again, victory for host Raul Capablanca. I decided to finish the saga with this brilliant win, but you know, Well, we're definitely going to have more Capablanca games in the future. We're going to cover some other tournaments as well, but and maybe I will add those videos, of course, to the Capablanca Saga playlist, but for the moment, this is it. And you are now, before we open up our poll where we will vote for the next big saga, feel free to suggest what you think the next big saga should be by using hashtag saga suggestion, and I will, of course, read all of your comments before deciding on the next saga. And also, if you have some opinions on whether the sagas should be this long, as we've covered Capablanca Saga from January up until October, that's like a lot of time, or you would maybe prefer shorter sagas, maybe a tournament saga, not a player saga. You know, if you have any interesting opinions, do share them. I will read all of them, and surely they will be impactful on when I decide on the next big saga that we will cover. So yeah, that's the game, that's the saga. If you haven't been watching the saga from the beginning, I will put a link in the description below. The first thing you will see is a link that will take you to all the videos from the Capablanca saga, starting from his match against Juan Corzo, the Cuban national champion, up until this video here now. So, if you have a grandpa that missed the Capablanca saga, just, give him that link and say, there you go, grandpa, enjoy the Capablanca saga, or grandma, whoever enjoys chess. But yeah, I do hope you enjoyed the video, the saga, and all of these 10 months that we've enjoyed with the good stuff. I hope more good stuff will come. I would like to thank Pete McDonald for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. We're starting off with the Isle of Man tournament today, and of course, eagerly awaiting for the vote on the next big saga. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.